Hey guys, Tim here, Big Dog Forge. Welcome back. It's good to see you in the shop. So, this time around we're going to finish up the Jelly Roll Damascus Hart billets and see how those things come out. We're going to do something a little different with each one, and that should be fun. So, I hope you enjoy that. A couple of things before we get started. I got an email some time ago from some friends of mine, Kim and Mark, and they're the ones who I did the birthday video for a few months ago. If you've seen that, if you haven't, you should probably go check it out. Anyway, I wanted to say hi to them. Kim's going through a little bit of a hard time right now, medical thing, and I wanted to just let you know I'm thinking about you and that my heart's out to you. And I hope that everything is going okay. Let me know how you're doing. All right. So, also, I wanted to mention that I've been kind of slacking in getting back to people with emails, and I've been trying to answer some Q&A questions. I'm going to get a lot better at that. So if you sent me an email over the last couple of months, you probably haven't got an answer back. I've been dealing a lot with this stuff here, so I've scheduled myself to try to get back into that and try to answer a few of those emails and some of the more important stuff, get it taken care of. So Rick, that involves you. You should be hearing from me really soon, and we'll get that whole thing going. I hope you're still into that. Let me know. Daniel Moss, yes, I am keen on that. Very keen on that. You need to send me an email at bigdogforging@gmail.com. Let me know what you're thinking, and we'll get on that, because I think doing a collab with you would be pretty cool. So, yes, I'm going to get back into this. I'm going to start answering some of those emails back that I've not been able to get to in a very long time. I really appreciate you guys being so patient with me. And, hey, we'll do what we can. We'll get it done, one way or another. All right. So, let's take a look at this and see how it comes out. Thanks, guys. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye. Okay guys, I believe this is where we left off last time. We're going to get the old forge fired up. We got the pyrometer in there to make sure we're up to welding temperature. We're going to get this guy warmed up and get some flux on him. Now I'm just using borax here. I'm using anhydrous borax to keep it from bubbling up too much. Saves the inside of the forge a bit. And we took our first weld on this Ferry flip billet, and you can just see it bend a little bit. Well, the welds popped loose, and right there, you'll be able to see it here, it just didn't take. So we got the forge a lot hotter. We waited till that thing cooled down and ground the ends at a 45, welded it back together, gave it a full weld all the way around, and got it back underneath the hammer. And everything seemed to take just fine at that point. But until it's ground down, we won't know for sure. So these two billets we're going to treat differently. This guy we're going to forge it down to about 5/16 of an inch thick, and then we'll grind it down to around 1/4. It's the one with the round handle sticking off for the tongs. And this guy, we're not going to show you the whole process, but we're going to forge it down to about 1/2 inch, and then we'll grind it down to about 3/8. So there's our 5/16 bar. We're going to let that cool on the anvil, and we're going to take our 1/2 inch bar and get it over to the mill. And we're going to mill off either side, because we're going to forge down some higher carbon steel and forge weld it to either side to frame those hearts in a little bit. Alright, so this is the higher carbon steel that we're going to weld on the outside of that 1/2 inch billet. And we use Floyd to get it down to closer to a square shape. And then we'll get it over to Scrappy, the power hammer, and let him square everything up and plenish it. Make it nice and pretty. Those two work in combination really well that way. The press gets it there quickly, and the power hammer really does a good job of cleaning it up. Alright, so once we got those pieces made, We made sure they were nice and straight. When they cooled off, took it over to the 72-inch belt sander, and we made sure that everything was nice and smooth and flat on the edges, clean. And we will weld these to the side. We'll tack weld them, and then we'll get them into the forge, and we'll do a fire weld or forge weld, depending on which country you come from, I suppose. And we're only going to tack these on either end. We're not going to put any welds in the center, because I don't want to be grinding off any more than I have to down the center of the billet. All right, good enough. And we'll get this thing into the fire. Now, I was asked by a subscriber some time ago if I could show a forge weld by hand so they could see the speed in real time and what that looks like, because I typically speed things up. You're seeing it here. This is what one of my initial forge welds to set the weld looks like. It doesn't take a bunch of rapid hammering, just nice even blows. Make sure that the piece is flat on the anvil and that you work your way from one end to the other. On the second weld, we're going to take it over to the power hammer. Now, if I were going to continue to weld it by hand, I would continue to do the same thing that I did the first time around. But since I'm having to forge weld with my left hand, and I have a power hammer, I might as well use it. So we cut a V-groove in this thing, and the intent is just like on the Hart Damascus knife. We're going to pinch this together and weld it into something that resembles a knife shape. So get it good and hot. We keep flux on it through all these heats. Get it close, and then we take a good welding heat on it to do an initial weld. And once you've welded this together on the sides, it spreads out, obviously. So you want to keep it uniform thickness. And take another welding heat. And I believe I did this 3 times. Probably only showed it twice. And then after the last heat, I go ahead and flux the entire thing. Get it into the forge. Let that flux float a bunch of the scale off. And then wire brush it until it's pretty cool, and that will get rid of most of the fire scale. So I used a hard stone disc to remove the heavy scale, and got it over here to the bell grinder, and we're just going to take it down to 80 or 100 grit. We're not going to go super fine with this guy. I just want to be able to get it into the ferric chloride so I can take a look and see what the pattern looks like. I'm a little worried about those Ferry flip welds. I don't see any cracks in this at all, but there's just something odd about that, or the way I did it, that I'm a little worried about. All right, while that's soaking in the ferric chloride, this is our 5/16 billet, and we're going to knock the scale off this thing. And by the time we're done with this, our half-inch piece that's in the ferric chloride should be good to go. And by the way, we ground that half-inch down to 3/8. So there it is. Interesting. Alrighty. And we took our 5/16 piece back over to the belt sander, and we spent some time on it and took it down to about 100 grit, 120 grit sandpaper. Took it down to 1/4 inch and got that into the ferric chloride. All right, so let's get this under a little better light so we can take a look at these guys. Okay guys, we got these things out of the ferric chloride and we cleaned them up. So you're looking at the first billet that we did. This is the one that broke into the power hammer, and we welded it back together, and you can see those cracks between those flip welds. And they're deeper than just a surface crack. and they show up on both sides. That's got some pits between the two bottom ones welded together the best. But you can see that guy there, and you can get a fingernail on it. And this one's the same way. And the top one looks a little gnarly, but actually you can't even feel it, but it's there. And on the edges, lining up with these things, you can see the weld on the edge. And whether those cracks go all the way through, or they're good welds or bad welds, if you can see the weld in a situation like this, I'm just thinking it's not good. So this little billet, I'm pretty much calling, I don't know, failure. Now this guy, we cut the handle off the top, and the welds between, this is our second go around, and we learned something. So this one came out a lot better. We got a couple of little areas, you can see at the bottom of the screen there, and there's surface things, you can't even get a fingernail into them. This thing is still really thick. It's about 3/8 of an inch thick. Alright guys, there you go. So the first one that we had under the power hammer, it kind of broke in half, and we put it back together. That's the one that had the issues with the welds in it. And I kind of learned from that one a little bit. So we had the second one, and it seemed to weld up just fine. It's got a couple little spots, but it's really thick. Plenty of room to grind those out. And they look like they're just on the surface anyway. So that needs to be forged out into something. And we're going to have to figure that one out, because right now forging is a little bit iffy. So I don't know. We might do a... You guys can let me know. We might do a giveaway with that one. It's kind of an odd mosaic Damascus pattern with the hearts and the whole thing going on. And I got to be honest with you, I like the fact that the experiment came out okay, but I'm not crazy about the pattern. I thought it would look, you know, a little better and not so scattered, and I don't know, I just, you guys are gonna have to let me know. What do you think? So anyway, went to work today, and job site, guy walks up to me and says, "Hey, you're that guy." And I'm like, I didn't do it. So I'm that guy if whatever that guy did was good, but if whatever that guy did was bad, I'm not that guy. And he's like, "No, you're that guy from YouTube." So I kind of caught me by surprise. And that's not the first thing on your mind. First thing on your mind is you're that guy that did something wrong and somebody wants to get you for it. So I thought I'd share that with you a little bit. It was a little bit of a nervous moment, but kind of cool. But yeah, I was that guy. And I thought I was that bad guy for a minute, but it ended up I was the good guy. So that was, whew. Anyway, there you go. Let me know what you think about this. I plan on doing a live stream Saturday the 16th at 2 p.m. Pacific time. So that'd be West Coast time in the US. So if you can make it, great. It'll be somewhere between 30 minutes and an hour, depending on how it goes. I've got a few things that I want to get set up to make sure that it goes real well. So I'm going to give myself a couple of days. But hey, I'll see you there, hopefully. Join in. Should be fun. Alright guys, leave a couple of videos over here for you. And picture of the big dog. Click on that. You can subscribe if you haven't. And if you can find that like button somewhere, click on that for me. And share, because sharing the videos is good. And we like that kind. So anyway, thanks guys. I'll talk to you soon. Take care. We'll see you later. Be safe. Bye-bye.